Well, ladies and gentlemen, the post debate polls are even better than I expected. We've got Donald Trump. At this point, it seems like a consensus around a 60 to 65% think he did better than Harris. There were some polls from very liberal networks that had Harris winning just slightly, but even the liberal networks were criticizing Harris based on her lack of policy. So while it wasn't a perfect debate for Trump, I would say Trump certainly outperformed Harris. You can see this is something that has been referenced, talking about who would handle the economy better. Donald Trump performing 2 points better after the debate than before. And here's another post-debate poll. Who won it? Trump plus 11. That is a pollster that apparently nailed the 2016 election. So you've got Trump at 45%, Harris at 34%, and then a draw at 21%. I do think this debate is not going to have a big impact, but it does seem like the general consensus is it was either a draw, and this is from independent people. Obviously, liberals will say, well, Trump was terrible. Republicans will say Harris was bad. Although there were some Republicans that were really, really angry at Trump for whatever reason. I mean, this is what happens in debates. You're not always going to knock people out. It's like people got overzealous after what happened to Biden, and that really wasn't even Trump doing it. It was just Biden totally melting down. If you don't melt down, the debate's going to look relatively close. And it's like people like Elon coming out saying, oh, she performed better. Well, obviously she's going to perform better than Biden. A rock could perform better than Biden. We've got stuff on Biden. Apparently now Biden's this big time Trump supporter. It's amazing. But you can see Trump plus 11. The aggregate polls, they say that Trump probably around 60% won this debate. Harris was at 40. And so this is good news considering Trump was already up. And now we're seeing Trump go back up in poly market after the manipulation where liberals spent big money to try and influence people into Kamala Harris performing well at the debate. Not only did they do that, remember, they had a widespread thing going last night. They had their whales put huge money on Kamala Harris at around 9:15 before the debate even really kicked off. They did that because they wanted to influence everyone and say, oh, she wins the debate, because debates are subjective and really people have to think for themselves. They don't want to do that. They say, oh, look, everyone else is putting money on Kamala. She must be winning the debate. That's not how it works. It was just liberal whales doing it. And not only that, that was just their first part. Their second part was the Taylor Swift endorsement at the end of the night. So they knew that the debate probably wasn't going to go very well. So they needed to influence the public opinion through the betting markets and then through Taylor Swift saying that, with a Chat GPT thing. I mean, they put it through Chat GPT and then they changed a few words. I'm sure if you read it on what she was saying on Instagram or wherever it was, she says it right at the end of the debate. It was already pre-planned to say that no matter what happened in the debate, as long as Kamala didn't get crushed, she was going to say that. So they had two things planned for to try and help Kamala, but people are seeing through it. And so you can see this. You've got Reuters, and if you didn't know, I did just close my blind. You're like, well, what about the light change? I had to close my blind. It was like a sun glare thing. Reuters coming out and saying with an interview of 10 undecided voters post-debate, 6 of them are either backing or leaning towards Trump. This is undecideds. 3 of them backing Harris, 1 undecided. So obviously that's a very, very, very small sample, but I do think that's kind of the general vibe. It was 60-40. They've got it at 60-30-10. 60% of the support going to Trump, 30% going to Harris, and then 1 undecided. But it's like 60-40. That's what I would say in terms of that. Pundits say Harris won the debate. Undecided voters weren't so sure, and that's even the New York Times admitting that. Of course, the pundits, mainstream media, they're mainly left-wing, as long as Harris doesn't totally choke. Guys, I'll remind people, if you go back to that Biden-Trump debate, there were people that said Biden beat Trump on substance. Now, obviously, that's completely ridiculous. It's totally false, but this just goes to show you, no matter what, people will go to bat for their team and say Kamala won. And obviously Kamala had a way better performance than Biden. So pretty much no matter what, as long as she doesn't choke, the mainstream media is going to say she won and she looked good. It didn't necessarily help that there were times where, you had the moderators against Trump, which made it easier for them. But again, that also kind of does help in the general sense with independent voters, as long as they can see through it and see this is kind of like the felon. I mean, you think, wow, Donald Trump becoming a felon, it's so horrible for his campaign. Well, no, it helps it because it exposes the weaponization that they're going and the likes that they're taking to try and get Trump. And so do these moderators, as long as independent people can see through it. You've got Joe Biden putting on a Donald Trump hat. Biden appears to put on Trump hat. From the leading report. It's breaking. Yes, pretty funny. There's Biden with the hat on. Dark Brandon is back. Thank God. Biden has come out and endorsed Trump. And this is a true dream team. And then we've got this, even on MSNBC, a Hispanic undecided voter from Arizona blasted Kamala Harris after watching the debate for leaving the border wide open as the nation's border czar. My family went through a long process to get here legally, so I feel that it is unfair for hundreds of thousands to get here without problems and for the federal government to help them out. And of course, they have to do that. They need the votes. So that's really what's going on there. That's why they're letting all these people in and giving them amnesty. And it is something that Trump should have brought up was amnesty. That's another thing. JD Vance, JD Vance had JD Vance's debate's going to be very, very fun. Springfield, Ohio, 22-year-old Haitian migrant men are reportedly being enrolled as freshmen in high school. A freshman in high school, what are they, 13, 14 years old? 22-year-old Haitian men are being enrolled as freshmen. What in the actual hell? Oh, this is the moment. This is the moment that I wanted to show.
14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute. I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please.
Please.
Does that sound familiar?
Well, I'm speaking, and look at that. Look at who I just paused it on. She was dumbfounded. She tried to have a comeback. Just focus on her. She tries to have a comeback here. She's like, she's frazzled. She doesn't know what to do. Oh, man. Poly market. Trump is back up. I actually haven't updated this. Let's see the update on this. Trump back up to 50%. Yeah, so they manipulated poly market. It didn't work. People realized that that's what they were doing. And I told people, we've got this. I will repeat what I said a couple days ago. Crackles needed a grand slam total knockout of Trump. She lost by a small margin. At the very best, it was a draw. I think she lost big. Yeah, I think she lost like 60-40. I would agree. You could argue maybe it's a draw, but I would say Trump definitely got way better one-liners. You know, even when you talk about policy. The other thing with Kamala is she promises all these cuts and that she's going to give people money. Where's all that money coming from? And then she's like, oh, we're going to tax really rich people. What, with unrealized gains? You understand the ripple effect that's going to have on the economy? Vivek Ramaswamy did a great job explaining how horrible that's actually going to be. You're taxing people on money they don't have. They're forced to sell things like stocks, and then it causes the stock price to go down because whales have to sell because they're the ones getting these taxes. That's the problem. And then you can see, yeah, the voter registration is so good for Republicans. That's another reason why I think at the end of the day, as long as the polls are relatively even, the voter registration is just so amazing in basically every state. I think Trump could win the popular vote. Trump could win the popular vote by about a point and a half. He could win with over 300 electoral votes, maybe around 312 right now. You look at states like Virginia possibly being in play, maybe a New Hampshire as well. But this debate certainly did not help her. There was not any crazy moments that we were hoping for where she really struggled. Obviously, she spent a long time preparing for it. But this is more of the same. And I do think, and this is kind of a glossed over thing because it happened before the debate and it was just on one of those pre-shows. But Gavin Newsom came out and criticized their campaign and said that they need to do more interviews and said that that's not how he would handle it. And Gavin Newsom apparently also praised Trump and talked about how, you know, him and Trump were getting along in terms of being able to, when Trump was president, being able to get supplies from the government, things like that. Listen, I think that Newsom is trying to rebrand himself. He's seeing the people leaving his state. It's very clear. He did all those videos where he was like picking up trash and stuff. Obviously, that's just a photo op, but they did, pass something to where they've gotten a lot of the homeless people, the homeless tents out of the city. So I do think Newsom is trying to clean up his act. Obviously, he's still ridiculously liberal, but I did think it was kind of funny that he even came out and criticized Harris for not doing any interviews, and maybe this will push her to do more. And I also saw a report, and maybe this is true, maybe it's not, that Harris has already said she wants to do another debate with Trump. So if that is true, that's good news because, Trump wanted to do 3. So now, though, the question becomes, does Trump get a little bit angry here because these moderators were absurdly biased against him? And does Trump say, okay, we did the first debate, now the second one needs to be, we did the first debate, very liberal network, they were very biased against me, everyone saw it. So the second debate should be on, and look, even we're not even asking that the debates necessarily be on all conservative platforms, But Trump's done 2 debates. They've both been on liberal platforms. CNN, good for them. They were non-biased. As long as you're non-biased, I don't care. You could do another debate on CNN as long as if they act the same way they acted in the first debate, that's fine. It's just when it comes to the moderators, and the key point here is picking and choosing what to interject in, because you could say, well, the moderators need to call out Trump when he lies. Well, she also had several moments that were blatantly horribly false statements to where I had said while she was saying them, the moderators need to say something and step in, and they never did. So you've got rules for one, but not for the other. And that is the definition of pure bias. And so that's why I think if they do plan another debate, is Trump going to sit there and say, well, ABC was ridiculously biased against me. I'm not doing an NBC debate. I'll do Fox News. And then do we get a hang up there? Well, she won't do Fox News because they wanted to do a debate. The Trump campaign did, or the Trump team did on September 4th on Fox News. That's what ended up being that town hall that I live streamed on September 4th. It was like a really kind of a weak town hall. Fox News dragged it out into 2 days. It was really weird, but it was supposed to be a debate on Fox News, and she didn't want to go on Fox News. But I just wonder with the bias moderators if Trump will say, no, I'm not going to give it anymore. I went on CNN, very liberal. I went on ABC, very liberal. Now the least you can do is do Fox News. Even if you're just talking about Kamala, take away the CNN debate with Biden. You just did a liberal ABC. We know, and I think Democrats would admit they were extremely biased against Trump. Any independent would admit that. And so now it's like, no, we want a conservative network. And it's like, I don't even want Fox News to be biased. I just want a fair network. Even if you want to do another one on CNN, if they treat Trump the same way they treated him for the Biden debate, that's fine. The problem is when the moderators interject and try and get these I gotcha moments on Trump, and then they don't let him respond to that. And then they don't do the same thing for Harris when she blatantly says things that are completely false. And it's just pure bias, and it's meant to change the perception of the debate. And that's the big issue. And so I always say the moderators want to make themselves the star. Well, I thought that was going to be different with the muted mics, but it seems like they were trying to get around that by the moderators having to interject and say, no, this is false. Remember the Springfield thing? They preemptively called the city council or someone and said, we called them today because we knew you were going to bring this up and we wanted to try and get you on this and embarrass you, even though it's come out that that is true what Trump was saying. And of course, what's going to happen is they'll just say, oh, it doesn't matter anymore, whatever. So they'll say it's false because they don't like it. Then it'll turn out to be true. And then they'll say, yeah, who cares? We're just going to forget about it. It's total gaslighting. That's what they do. But either way, guys, this is good for Trump. I mean, the post-debate, it was looking, Bitcoin dropped. A lot of the Trump cryptos dropped. But no, now it seems like Trump won this like 60-40. At the very worst, it was a draw. And this is great news because Trump was doing very well in the polls prior to this. And now the polls are saying, outside of some liberal polls like CNN, they're saying that Trump won or it was very close. It was a draw. So this is good. And even liberal networks like ABC said that Kamala did not do a good job in explaining her policies. So we do that, apparently they're going to do another debate, but I just wonder, is Trump going to really push for that Fox News debate now after the moderators and how biased they were against him? Or will Trump go on a third liberal network? Obviously, it's not going to be MSNBC. I think right now, if there is going to be a second debate, it will be either Fox News. Well, the first thought was that it was going to be NBC, but the question becomes, will Trump really want to do that? So will he push for the Fox News debate possibly in October? I think CNN or it might be CBS is doing the Vance versus Waltz debate. It's either CBS or CNN. I don't remember which one. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.